Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada, we love you. In Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful March the 19th, 2019. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, I've been basking out in the sun on my patio and stuff in mosquito, and I think I got some tan lines.
Did you say you got mosquito bites or you got some tan lines, Big C? Which one is it?
I think it's tan lines. I couldn't find the mosquitoes in all the rows and stuff.
Hopefully those are bread rolls, Big C. It's all fair and love and war. Mosquitoes are coming out too. That's the one thing I don't like about the spring. The mosquitoes think we're having springtime. For the mosquitoes, it's actually for the flowers to start blooming, and everything is blooming all over California, especially Mike Trout's contract. I thought it was thunderstorms in the sky, but no, it was just some people taking an exhale about his contract. I think they've only been in 3 playoff games since he's been there with the Angels, but it's all fair and love and war. We know March Madness, the play-in games start tonight. And then there's also, for men and women, how do you tell people to love somebody? Sometimes you got to pay for it. Other times you just ask for it, but it's all fair and love and war. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. So, Big C, I know we hear about inflation. Everything goes up in value. But when something goes up in value, it's worth more. It's worth more because, therefore, you got to pay more for it. Now, I know we hear about Trout signing that contract, 12-year, $430 million. That's like a lotto, Big C. But if someone can tell me, he batted .312, and I think last year they were 80 wins, 82 losses. They finished 4th place in the AL West behind Houston, behind Oakland, and behind Seattle. So I understand people pay for things, but can you explain to me why they couldn't get him for less than $430 million, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Mike Trout is undoubtedly the best player in baseball. Bryce Harper is the most publicized player in baseball, but Mike Trout has been the best player in baseball, hands down, the last 5 years. And when you're in the second largest market in the United States, Charlton, and you're playing in a city where the Dodgers really could be the most recognized team in all of baseball outside the Yankees and even the Red Sox, the Dodgers are right there on that same plane with them, is that you have to find something to keep the Angels in Los Angeles, Charlton, because there had been some talk of them leaving Anaheim and seeking new digs elsewhere. But to keep the biggest player in baseball in the fold, Charlton, for the next decade, it gives you reason and opportunity, Charlton, to think that you become a better team. You have Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese sensation, Charlton, that had an excellent rookie season. Charlton is going to go under Tommy John surgery. But you have the building blocks for an organization. Albert Pujols will be out the door shortly, Charlton, as soon as his contract expires, if they don't get him out sooner. But this leads the way, Charlton, to have other young players come to your organization. But when you think about the last 4 great baseball signings that we've had in Colorado, we've had in San Diego, and we had in Philadelphia. But you think 2 of those, Charlton, are in Southern California. When you think about the population of the state of California, Charlton, and a state that's in dire need of a winner, this is a great signature, Charlton, to show that this organization is willing to spend money and to keep the best players intact. And that's what you have to show the fans, Charlton, is that you're willing to pay the money. Now, to pay $430 million over 12 years, which comes out to about $36 million a year, to go get my pencil and eraser and make sure I got that right.
Close enough.
But, when you think about the dedication of the ownership, Charlton, to the fan base, this is what they're saying, is that we're now willing to try to put together a winner. They did this, several years ago with Albert Pujols when they brought him out of St. Louis, Charlton, and signed him to at that time was one of the richest contracts in baseball history.
Yeah.
But this is dedicating money to your own, the one that you brought up through the franchise, Charlton. You didn't go out in free agency.
Yeah.
You made a commitment to developing your farm system, and this is an attribution to that, Charlton, is that you're planning to succeed in the future.
I want to ask you a thought, though, Big C. I know with Manny Machado signing with the San Diego Padres, they were the abyss last year in the National League West. You look at the Angels, who were one game out of the abyss, only ahead of Texas in the AL West. Mike Trout was on the same team last year. Just like you buy a car, you buy a house, you expect it to go up in value. You buy a car, you expect it to go down in value. So he already showed you what he can do. He helped the team finish 4th out of 5 teams in the West. How is signing him making them a better team, Dixie? He's not a pitcher. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he missed 27 games last year. Now, he's an everyday player. That's the difference between an everyday player and a pitcher. Him out of the lineup 27 games due to injury, Charlton. Think about where they would have been if he'd have stayed healthy. You know, he's going to attribute, you're going to figure at least 60% of those games would have been wins, Charlton, with him in the lineup. So they could have easily won 95 games, 97 games with him in the lineup, Charlton. You know, you don't always know if a player is going to stay healthy in any sport, Charlton. We see great athletes all the time go down.
Yeah.
Mike Trout is the nucleus of this organization, Charlton. He is what will draw other great players to the Angels. They say, okay, they made a commitment to Trout. That means they have the money to make a commitment to me.
Yeah.
And if they're willing to keep the best player in baseball in the fold, Charlton, that means if I sign a contract that they've made a commitment to winning.
I want to get your thoughts, though, because I know you played against guys, and oftentimes a guy would start based on where they signed him in his contract, not because he was the best player on the team at that position. You know that's true. I got to get your thoughts on when I go down to Anaheim, I'm going to Disneyland. I'm just being I'm just looking the opposite side of the coin here. When I watch games with the Angels, that stadium, I would say, is mostly three quarters full. So about 25% empty. And that's when they had the great Pujols. They had Mike Trout. I think their best years, of course, when they won the World Series, they beat the San Francisco Giants back in the day. And they were selling out thin. But no one on that team at that time, and we're going back over a decade, no one on that team at that time their whole payroll was about $400 million. So they made success happen with pitching. Not because they paid one guy who could hit home run. The best batter in that stadium was Barry Bonds, and the Giants lost that series. So I just want to get your thoughts before I ask you another question, is how does paying him more money, or paying Machado more money, or paying Harper more money? The only one that was in the World Series last year was Machado, and he was striking out on his knee last pitch he took against the Boston Red Sox. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at how do players get more money, it's television, Charlton. Television has generated this mass amount of money for the players.
Yeah.
There's revenue sharing in baseball. All the rosters in Major League Baseball, all the owners make the same amount of money, Charlton. They have revenue sharing. So the Anaheim Angels make the same amount of money as the Los Angeles Dodgers, as the Boston Red Sox, as the New York Yankees, as the Texas Rangers, the Houston Astros, the Colorado Rockies, Milwaukee Brewers. They all make the same amount of money. That thing called revenue sharing.
Yeah.
Through cable contracts, Charlton, through selling of memorabilia, Charlton, in the stadiums. They share their revenue equally. So you can be a small market team like San Diego, finished last in your division, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you made the same amount of money as a team up the freeway that went to the World Series in the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Twice.
It's about whether a team wants to invest the money in the players, Charlton.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point because of the Players Association, Charlton, is that they know how much money the owners have. And so as an owner, you're holding on to money for what? You're not going to spend it all in your lifetime.
Yeah.
So you might as well put some back into your organization. Hopefully that the fans can benefit from it, Charlton. They've paid the majority of share into it over the decades.
Well, that's a very good point. Yasiel Puig, left the Dodgers last year after being maybe the home run hitter that they had on their team. We know they came up short the last 2 years, but they were at least there in the World Series. So with Machado and Trout, the last two big signings in the West Coast, you're talking over $700 million for two baseball players. But $760 million, somewhere in there, $730 million, out of two baseball players. And I think that's incredible. Ultimately, I think it hurts the game because someone's gonna have to come to the games. If not, we're gonna see more and more of people not showing up. This is the first time in about since they built AT&T Park in San Francisco that you can actually go to a game, at a Giants game, which was sold out for years when they were winning, not because they have the highest payroll. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you have to produce.
Yeah.
And the money has just gotten to that point now that you can't hide it from anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about the huge contracts. We talk about the top contracts. So a player who gets $70 million, Charlton, who gets $120 million, is not even really spoken about. So when you think about the $430 million that Trout is getting, then you take that and you revert that back to a player, Charlton, that's not producing.
Yeah.
If you look at the stats between Mike Trout and Bryce Harper,
yeah,
Mike Trout batted 50% higher than what Harper did.
Yeah,
Charlton.
he was batting 312 compared to like 250.
So when you look at that, Charlton, what justifies the money? When you talk about a player who is a 317 hitter in his career, which is Mike Trout, Charlton,
yeah,
who has won everything that an individual can win, it's up to the rest of your teammates, Charlton, to produce. You can't always hold the highest paid player on a team accountable.
Yeah.
Because the guy that makes $70 million, Charlton, is just as accountable as the guy who makes $430 million.
Yeah.
It may seem odd when it comes to paycheck, Charlton, but when you're in the starting lineup, you expect to give 100% every outing.
Yeah.
When I played football, Charlton, against guys and with guys who were making more or making less,
yeah,
you expected them to do the same job regardless, Charlton, of the paycheck.
Yep.
You took that position based on you wanting to be there, and you accepted the contract terms that they gave you, Charlton,
yeah,
to perform. All
true.
players don't always perform to the level of their contract. It's always happened in professional sports, Charlton. Every player does not perform to the level of his contract, and yet some players exceed the performance level of their contract.
Yep.
Do you go back and restructure that, Charlton, based on that? And a lot of players hold out because of it.
Because of that, too. So, obviously, Harper, he was saying that he was going to take less. Yeah, imagine the ego. I'm going to take $330 million so I can make room for somebody else, and he doesn't join you either way. But even the ego of I'm going to take less than $330 million, and he's never going to deliver a World Series to Philadelphia. But even if they get to it won't be because of him. And I do wish Trout the best. I wish him all the best. I just want to get your thoughts. One more thing. You know how the Latin American players for baseball, they'll go down to Latin America because they can pay guys a lot less money than African American players in the United States. I guess there's not a swell of African American players going into baseball, but maybe now they'll start looking at the mound more than the basketball hoop. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it used to be that African American players, Charlton, wanted to play baseball.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden the NBA came so exciting and broadcast and the sports networks, and you saw them on the highlight shows. You see in the dunk contest and all these things, and basketball became very exciting to players, Charlton. They didn't do the math on how many would be able to make it to the league.
Yeah.
And so they sort of get blindsided when you look at the opportunities that exist in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball has always had guaranteed contracts, Charlton.
Yeah.
These other sports haven't. You play one day in the major leagues, you're guaranteed your pension, you're guaranteed medical coverage for life. And so, we talk about how parents should help educate their kids.
Yeah.
We were talking about your situation in Sacramento.
Yeah.
About, parents are just as culpable as these kids and the police officers in these situations.
Yeah.
It's imperative that the parents sit down, if they're going to push their kids into sports, push them in something that will take care of them for life.
Yeah.
They'll all say, okay, I want to see you on TV playing basketball. They don't realize the benefits of playing professional baseball. The guys who play football and the guys who play basketball. Kyler Murray made the decision not to go to Major League Baseball, wanting to play in the NFL. And granted, he's one of those excellent top caliber athletes, Charlton, that will be a high draft pick.
Yeah,
Everybody is not. But when given the option to have something that will guarantee you for life, Charlton, which you play one day in it, that's why you take that option. You look at Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
After he failed in the NFL, he didn't fail. They just decided he didn't fit the mold of the quarterback that they wanted.
Yeah.
If Tebow was in college today, he would still be a number 1 draft pick, and he would be playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
But he went to baseball, Charlton, and this year he'll end up in the majors with the New York Mets.
Yeah.
And he'll be guaranteed his pension for life, Charlton, for baseball.
Wow.
Even though he's not a poor man, he'll get guaranteed pension and health care for life from Major League Baseball.
Well, that's amazing. It's like a fireworks or fire engines, and you can hear that siren coming, that there's more and more money coming. And I wonder if it's going to spill over into the Latin American players, because we know they have those farm leagues down in Latin America, and they'll just use players up, and people never hear about them.
Well, look at Mookie Betts, Charlton, who was American League MVP,
the best,
World Series MVP.
Yep.
He only received $20 million in arbitration.
Yeah.
Now, he was considered the best player in baseball last year.
Yeah.
And he only received $20 million in arbitration because he was a minority player. There was no big fanfare about, free agency with him. He had to go to arbitration.
Right.
And only got $20 million, but people are like, wow, okay,
only $20 million? Yeah, I'll take it.
But that's my point. He is the best player in baseball last year in the American League, and really for the last 2 years, even though Mike Trout has been consistent in his career. Mookie Betts was the MVP.
He got a World
and
Series.
the World Series MVP.
Yeah.
And he could only get $20 million.
Yeah.
And so this is my point. We say he only gets $20 million. And, Bryce Harper's going to get 27.
Yeah.
Mike Trout's going to get 36.
Yeah.
Manny Machado's going to get 30.
Yeah.
But, here it is. Who's crying for Mookie Betts, who's only getting $20 million? Yeah,
maybe Mookie Betts may have to introduce his agent to the fact that more players that are half as good as him are making almost double his income, Big C. Because, that's part of it, too. Boros is not the guy who signed the deal for Trout, but he got the deal for Harper. But at the same time, there's just a lot of money out there, and I hope the Latin American farm leagues are not just dumpster dives where they just dump into the dumpster and pick out somebody and leave everybody else out to the farm.
You look at the Latin American player.
Yeah.
When you look at the average income where they grow up, where an adult's average income for a year might be $1,500 to $2,500 a year.
Yeah.
And so they go in and they bring these kids into the academy, Charlton, and they pay the kids $1,500 to $2,500 a year.
Yeah.
In the academy, Charlton, not only do they house them, they educate them, they nourish them, and they teach them the game of baseball. They keep them. They sign them to 5-year deals that range anywhere from $25,000 to $75,000, Charlton, over this 5 years.
Yeah.
More money than they would make as a layman worker in their country, Charlton.
Yeah.
So they're giving a tremendous opportunity. I mean, you look at a college player, Charlton. We heard Sam Ellinger, the quarterback down at Texas, saying that, college athletes are just unpaid interns.
Yeah.
They go for 4 years, they work 40 hours a week, and they receive no revenue.
Yep.
At least the Latin American players, Charlton, down in the farm system, get an opportunity to earn an income while they're interning for a major league, organization.
Yeah.
And if they're fortunate enough, Charlton, to make it to the major leagues, all of a sudden they're going to become a millionaire instantly.
Yeah.
Now, that's not a bad situation. You spoke about Yasiel Puig, who migrated from Cuba.
Escaped from Cuba.
And came into this country.
Yeah.
And you think about him, Charlton, he came from Cuba as a refugee.
Yep.
He gets his first major league contract, Charlton, with the Dodgers. He gets $36 million.
Yeah.
This is a man that went from broke, having nothing, to all of a sudden getting $36 million.
Yeah.
I don't think that's taking advantage of a Latin American player. I think that's giving him instant wealth and an opportunity for growth in life, Charlton. Because where else was he going to get $36 million being in Cuba? He came to America, Charlton, and now he's living the American dream. He's no longer with the Dodgers. He's with the Cincinnati Reds. But you come from a impoverished country, Charlton, and all of a sudden you get $36 million. Are you being shorthanded?
I'll take it. He's being shorthanded if he's not getting on par, like Mookie Betts' contract versus Trout or Harper. I would think that's called shorthanded. The better player getting half, I call that shorthanded. But again, that's up to their agents and those players to fight for more if they can get more. Big C, so congratulations to Mike Trout. I think that I'll still go to Disneyland when I go to Anaheim, Big C. I don't see him making a difference for the team. He's already shown us what he can do. But sometimes you get the money, you're paying the money. I want to bounce the ball over to basketball. And you think about a player who has a lot of miles on him, and there's even some talk that he may not retire. Dirk Nowitzki, he passed the great Wilt Chamberlain last night for 6th place all-time in NBA scoring. And Big C, I'll take a big bet. That'll be the only thing he'll pass the great Wilt in. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about Dirk. He's going to be the greatest European player in NBA history.
Yeah.
When he finally hangs up the sneakers, Charlton,
yeah,
and he passed the great Wilt last night for 6th all-time in scoring. And the thing about Dirk is he's done it all with one team, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you think about the leading scorers in NBA history, Charlton, only Dirk Nowitzki has done it with one team.
Wow.
When you look at the top 6 scorers in NBA history, Dirk Nowitzki is the only one to do it all with one franchise, the Dallas Mavericks. Wilt played for 3 teams, the Warriors, the 76ers, and the Lakers.
Yeah.
Kareem played with 2 teams, Milwaukee and the Lakers. Jordan played with one team. I'll take it back. Jordan played with one team. But Karl Malone played with 2 teams, Charlie.
Yeah, well, Jordan finished with Charlotte. Jordan finished with Charlotte, but not really a...
Well, that's right. Jordan played with 3 teams. 3 teams, actually. So Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe Bryant played with one team, the Lakers. But everybody else, Charlton, played with multiple teams.
Yeah.
So that's an attribution to, Dirk Nowitzki and Mark Cuban with the Dallas Mavericks, Charlton.
Yep.
Being able to keep one player as the face of your franchise his entire career. And Dirk not saying, well, I want to go spend 1 year with somebody else.
Right, yeah, chasing titles. No, I congratulations to the great Dirk Nowitzki. Still has a shot that people try to emulate. Maybe Kevin Durant comes closest to it, but that high arcing kind of lean to the side jumper, that's a patented shot. He should patent that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the first guy to shoot a shot like that was another 6'11" player, Jack Sigma, who played with the Seattle Supersonics.
Yeah.
And he had a shot like that, Charlton, that no one could block. It started out behind his head and it was doing nothing but twang and twine back in the 70s, Charlton.
Yeah.
As the Supersonics won a title.
Yeah.
The only title that the city of Seattle has won prior to the Seahawks winning a championship.
Yeah.
But Dirk, will always be one of the top 50 players in NBA history, Charlton.
Yeah, congratulations to him. What a great player. Hope he does retire and let people remember him, that his All-Star, when he was given the voted into the All-Star game just for good feelings purposes.
Lifetime achievement.
Lifetime achievement. The man has done a great job down there for that great franchise. And speaking of players that want to get to that next level, you look at NCAA basketball, March Madness. Remember back in the day, the NIT was the premier tournament for colleges, and that got usurped by the NCAA March Madness. And even that's expanding, like the universe is expanding. Belmont and Temple, and then you have Farley Dickinson versus Prairie View A&M tonight. They're in the NCAA play-in games. As if we can't figure out how the top 16 teams are really the best teams in the country. We got to get play-in teams to go from 68 to 64. Big C, your thoughts on why we need that?
Well, Charlton, you never figure out why the NCAA has the madness, and I think that's the March Madness, that the NCAA can't get it right.
Yeah.
That you can't walk up there and say, okay, we have 64 teams. Let's squeak out a couple more games, Charlton, and get a little more revenue that the kids are not going to get.
Right.
I like Prairie View A&M tonight, Charlton. They've won 21 of the last 22 games. And to think about their historical black college right outside of Houston down there in Texas.
Yep.
And so it would be great, Charlton, to see them get into the tournament to show that the historical black colleges still can compete on the national stage.
Yeah, and it's obviously when you have those tournaments that are going on, I know it's a lot. What I do like about it, Big C, other than people not getting paid for their labor, and I think that's going to change. It may take another 5 years, but it takes lawyers. It takes people marching. It takes not necessarily marching, but marching into the court system, not marching up and down the street, Big C. But I hope that happens.
Well, Charlton, we've had a federal judge there in Oakland, California that has paved the way thus far for student athletes to get compensation.
Yeah.
We have a senator in North Carolina who's putting a bill on the floor of Congress, Charlton, for players to get compensated for their play.
Yeah.
So, the ball has started to roll as far as the NCAA is concerned. My thing, Charlton, will it be retroactive? Can I go online and get a legal check this time?
No, you can't. Hey, Big Z, they just got to talk to Mike Trout. Maybe his lawyer can, or his attorney can negotiate that contract for the players that want to go back and make it retroactive. And speaking of that, I want to when you talk about retroactive, there's seminal moments in our lives. And people may have thought it was with Harper, thinking, oh, he's going to, reverse the trend. It could have been Machado that, a roller coaster goes up and then it comes down like the stock market. An ocean wave goes up and then it goes down. At some point in time, the highest contract in the sports universe is going to start coming down. But it's a seminal moment because it can either go up or down, but I don't think it's going to go much higher for anybody else. On this date in Black history, in 1966, Big C, we're talking, 52 years ago, Big C, 53 years ago, Texas Western changed college hoops forever. They became the first team to win an NCAA title, starting at that time what was anathema, 5 African-American players. They beat the Kentucky Wildcats and Adolph Rupp. Now, it's hard to find a team that gets into March Madness that doesn't start 5 African-American players. Talk about the juxtaposition, Big C, in time. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when we think about that, Texas Western University at the time, which is now Texas El Paso, the Miners, Charlton, and Adolph Rupp stated before the game, an hour before the game, there was no way that these 5, and he used the N-word, are going to beat us tonight. Because it could be freely used at times, Charlton, even in front of the media.
Yeah.
But Adolph Rupp was a bigot. He's a legendary coach at the University of Kentucky. But he was a bigot. He refused to play black players, Charlton, in his organization. We're at the University of Kentucky at that time. John Calipari is completely different. Tubby Smith was completely different down there, Charlton.
Yep.
In playing African-American players, Charlton.
Yeah.
So the landscape has changed. But when you think about the historical significance of Texas Western University, Charlton, winning the 1966 NCAA title, in a time of segregation in America, Charlton, and the backlash in the media and the public, that 5 black young men, Charlton, could go out and dominate what's supposed to be the greatest white basketball team ever.
Right.
And they went out and dominated, Charlton, on a national scale. Don Haskins, who was the coach, who was a trailblazer at that time, Charlton, to see where basketball's future was, Charlton, and that was in African-American players. And he gave them the opportunity. And he broke down that stigma, Charlton, that African-Americans could not compete on the highest scale.
Yep.
And he went out and dominated that night, Charlton, and made history and opened a path for African-American athletes.
And I think when we say something like that in 2019, it may go through one ear and out the other, because for a lot of young black players, you just talked about how a lot of people have been shunned from playing baseball, which you get guaranteed money to try, and you got a bigger roster, and then you have NBA, which has 15, player on the roster, and no guaranteed money except for the exclusive players, the elite players, Big C. What does it mean to you? Because you were a young boy back in that time, and looking at it now, does it do anything for you emotionally to see how what we see today? It was such vitriol against it, which seems like it's so stupid, but our society was very stupid in many segments. How does that affect you now? Do you feel the same sting that you felt back then? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there was a lot of vitriol at that time, but also young African-American players, Charlton, were more into baseball than what they were into basketball. If you look at the content of African-American participation in Major League Baseball at that time, Charlton, it was about 56% African-American.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball players in 1966. The best players in Major League Baseball, Charlton, were African-American.
Yeah.
When you think about Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Ernie Banks, tremendous Frank Robinson, Charlton, tremendous African-American players at that time in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So that's where African-Americans' interests were, Charlton. You could listen to the baseball game on the radio. I remember listening with my dad, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, Charlton.
Yeah.
It was America's pastime. That changed the landscape of sports for African-American athletes, Charlton, when they saw that they could compete against white Americans and would have that opportunity, Charlton, on the grandest of college scales, Charlton. They seized that opportunity to draw a new path.
That's interesting, because growing up in I guess a biracial environment, I guess I should say multiracial, there were a lot of African Americans, Hispanics, and white Americans where I grew up. And I want to get your thoughts. I, as well as many other African Americans, never felt inferior to anybody. In fact, whether it was boxing, whether it's martial arts, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, track and field. I've yet to meet an African-American athlete in my lifetime that felt he was inferior to anybody except maybe for the 3-mile run. Mixie, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it wasn't ever a point of anybody ever feeling that they were inferior at any time with African-American athletes.
Yeah.
It's that white athletes always felt that they were inferior, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they felt that they gave African-Americans the same opportunity, then all of a sudden that they would lose out on their positions. So the inferiority situation, Charlton, came from white players.
Yeah.
Is that they always feared it. They felt that they had entitlement. I remember in high school, Charlton, that, when I got there as a freshman,
yeah.
I was told by white players that, no, you're a freshman. This belongs to this white sophomore. This is his position.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, he's going to take a butt whooping every day or move out of the way.
Yeah.
And so I made it a point to line up in front of him every day, Charlton, and beat up on him.
Yeah.
And our teammates would say, why do you have to be so hard on him?
Yeah.
I said, I'm a 13-year-old freshman. If he's that good, then he should be dominating me. He's a 15-year-old sophomore.
Yeah.
So, he lasted, Charlton, 1 quarter in the first game, and he had to change positions because the position was mine the rest of the season.
That's incredible. And I think oftentimes when people look at the classroom performance, if we can put our kids in a position to do as much classroom study as possible as we do in the athletic fields, we'll make the same type of strides in that too. The bell curve garbage, don't believe it for a second. Big C, 1970. Not until 1970 did the NCAA get its first African-American head coach, Illinois State. It was James Willie J. Robinson as the first African-American coach in Division I men's basketball. Now, you just talked about the integration of starting all, Texas Western starting 5 black athletes versus Kentucky's program. And then to get the first African-American head coach. You see more parity now in the NBA with black American coaches, maybe some in college, but more in the southern colleges. But what did that mean? Because you're a young boy right around that time. And again, you've never seen a group of African American players feel that they were inferior to white men for anything. What did it mean to see the first black coach get the opportunity, Big C, at a major university?
Well, Charlton, it didn't have the fanfare that it has now because we didn't have national sports networks.
Yeah.
And so when Willie was hired, Charlton, it went under the radar. And it was done in the Midwest. You think about being in Illinois, Charlton, a state with a huge black population, is that you can hide it, Charlton, to a degree, and see what the temperature could be at that point.
Yeah.
The rest of the nation, Charlton, universities were looking at it to see what the reaction would be from the fan base, from the alumni, that you bring an African-American in, Charlton, to be the leader of a and you think about the huge strides that took, Charlton. It took 4 years after African-Americans winning a national championship with 5 starters, Charlton.
Yeah.
To 4 years later, Charlton, to this gentleman getting the first African-American head coaching job.
Yeah.
It was often thought, Charlton, amongst white mainstream institutions, Charlton, that African-Americans weren't pressing enough, Charlton, for leadership.
Yeah.
That they could guide and develop these young men, Charlton, to get to the next level or even get an education.
Yeah. Well, I think when we look for that opportunity, justice swings both ways. I want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. Isn't that true, Mike Trout? And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. They work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league. When you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. So when you get opportunity, it doesn't mean you're going to be treated any differently. Former Auburn basketball coach, you think about it. He's an assistant. Chuck Persons accepted a plea deal in Manhattan federal court, avoiding trial. Now, he accepted $91,000 in bribes to steer players with NBA potential to a Pittsburgh-based financial advisor. And the guidelines for sentencing could be 2 to 2.5 years in prison. Well, I think it's a shame when you help people who are not getting paid to stay broke. But when you try to encourage them to go where they're going to make more money, how does that become a crime? And the system of keeping them unpaid is not a crime. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I draw this in comparison to the cheating scandals that these parents are paying this copious amount of money to cheat to get their kids in the institution.
Yep.
This was a situation, Charlton, where Chuck Pearson, a former NBA player, played 13 years in the NBA, known as the Rifleman.
Yep.
Played at the University of Auburn. But Charlton, he was steering young men to financial advisors.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
People that can help them with their financial future. This is what he was doing. And so I don't see the wrongness in this that the feds are saying that it is.
No, it's not.
Because you think about how many people go out. What the hell do insurance brokers do, Charlton?
They insure your future.
Okay? You're out there selling life insurance policies.
Yep.
You're steering people. And think about this. Whenever insurance company hires somebody, what do they tell you? They want you to make a list of 100 people that you know.
Yep.
Okay? And solicit these people.
Yeah.
And then you want them to give you 10 names each so you can go solicit them. So those people are guiding people towards you. Think about this.
Yeah.
This is the same thing that Chuck Pearson did. And he did it for pay. Insurance companies, people, Charlton, give people a base salary when they hire them without ever doing any work.
Yeah.
To steer people to them, Charlton.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
Yeah.
So, as an African-American, Charlton, who's doing the same thing as the insurance companies across America are doing, steering potential investors their direction.
Yep.
He's going to prison.
Yeah. And it's a shame because the way they say you don't steer, you got to offer more than one advisor. If that's the caveat, that should be a case where they drop those charges. That's a joke when you're trying to get people advice. Isn't that what we see? There's a brokerage company, and I love it because there's this guy, he's charging people to make them money, a broker's fee. And then there's a major company that's well known. They have commercials all over the place. They have signs on buildings, buses driving by, and it says what their brokerage fee charges. And then they're asking this guy, how much do you charge us for our money? And then he jumps into a pool. He tries to avoid the question. But they're always telling people to go get some financial advice. I think it's a shame that you want to send the guy to prison for trying to get kids pointed in the right direction. He didn't say go see a bookie. Did that make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it doesn't. And this is a wrong message that you're sending out there. I mean, here it is. You're getting basketball coaches, Charlton,
Yep.
that are getting prison sentences. So I want to see when the shoe is turned on the other foot, Charlton, and we see these wealthy white parents who have paid off people to cheat to get their kids into college. Now, there's no evidence that these coaches were cheating to get any students into college, Charlton. But we have, on the other side of the ledger, we have all these wealthy white families. We have 33 charged thus far.
Yeah.
Now, Chuck Pearson's getting 2.5 years in prison, Charlton. I want to see when the shoe drops on one of these wealthy white families, Charlton, how many years they get in prison, Charlton, or will they just get a slap on the wrist?
Probation, slap on the wrist, community service. And we know that's a shame. So, and I know many African-American sports agents, it's a challenge just to get representation anyway. You got to buy yourself into it. And some guys don't have the money starting out, even though they may have the degree, the law degree. But it's a system that keeps people out of it, Big C. And I hate to see that happen, but we know it happens a lot, Big C. I want to look at the Sun Belt Conference. It became the first conference in football subdivision to name an African-American as a commissioner. The conference, Keith Gill, an African-American, is the new commissioner. Now, he's been an associate commissioner of the Atlantic 10 Basketball Conference since May of 2017. He also served as athletic director at the University of Richmond, the Spiders, for 5 years. That's some progress, but I just think it's a shame when you can steer young men in the right direction. Now, steering, you can't steer in insurance. You got to give them options. So if that's the caveat, maybe you should have said, here's a list of advisors that you can go to, and hopefully he has a lawyer worth his salt that can stop that from happening. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I guess that's going to be the next man in line, Charlton, to say, okay, I'm going to give you a list of financial advisors that you're going to go through, and that'll be the safeguard against being, sentenced to prison, Charlton, for giving a young man. And I always thought that coaches were part of an advisory board, Charlton, for athletes.
Yep.
Is that you're there to advise, to help, tutor, mentor, make sure they go in the proper direction, Charlton.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody receives compensation for something in life.
Yeah.
But as a coach, and you're looking out for the best interest of the young man, even if you're steering them to a particular institution, Charlton.
Yeah.
Was there any illegal doings in this institution?
Well,
not like you send them to a prostitution ring, Charlton.
Well, that's a very good point, because here's a man that's trying to help young people. Okay, he's trying to help them. What father doesn't ask a college coach to look out for my children or my child when he or she goes to a university?
Well, don't they say, I'm going to take care of him like my son?
That's what they say.
So here's the coach, Charlton. Even though he's been compensated. Now think about this. When Larry Brown was the head coach of Kansas,
yeah,
and they get everybody out in Kansas because that's the place you want to go play college basketball.
Yeah.
And he hired Danny Manning's father. Danny Manning, they beat Oklahoma for the national title, I believe, around 88.
Yeah.
When they won the national title.
Yeah.
Danny Manning, player of the year, first overall draft pick in the NBA. Now he gives his father a $200,000 a year contract, y'all.
Wow.
To get his son to come to school there. Now, he went from a high school basketball coach, Charlton, coaching his son, to a joint package going to the University of Kansas.
Yeah.
$200,000 a year.
Yeah.
So, was that wrongdoing, Charlton? Did the FBI investigate that? Did they sentence anybody because the father got a job because of his son? I think he was giving his son financial advice also, Charlton, in steering him in whatever direction that he should go.
Well, that's
when we look at this level of injustice in athletics, Charlton, think about how much money coaches are making off these athletes.
Yeah.
And now you're going to start sentencing an assistant coach, Charlton, because he advised the kid, gave him some assistance in who he should seek out. When I was in college, Charlton, coaches, you could always go to them for advice. Should I talk to this agent? What do you think about this agent?
That's right.
You went to him, Charlton.
I tell you what, Big C, it's painful, but it's true. You think about what happened. Prosecutors, they've offered a plea deal to New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft and 24 other men which were charged that would be dropped for solicitation or prostitution. The Palm Beach State Attorney General confirmed Tuesday. Now, we just had the story on Perkins and with the college situation, which I think everybody tries to advise young people. But Kraft is the one that did the illegality. And they're trying to treat that as if he needs a slap on the wrist, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is atrocious. Here it is, Pearson going to jail because he steered young men to a financial institution, Charlton.
Yeah.
Here's Robert Kraft going to have the charges dropped along with 20 other men of solicitation of prostitution, Charlton. If they agree and write this agreement, Charlton, that they would have been found guilty. And in turn for this, Charlton, is that the video will be sealed and never see the light of day. So it'll be like it didn't even happen.
It never happened.
Charlton, they'll most likely get 100 hours of community service, have to pay a $5,000 fine, take a class, Charlton, about awareness of, human trafficking and, have a sexually transmitted disease test taken on them, Charlton.
Yep.
But he's not admitting any wrongdoing. This will go away. Now, remember when this first happened, and I told you that there was an individual who lived in that same city, Charlton, that had a golf course.
Yep.
That was bigger than Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
And he had a big White House in Washington, D.C. that he lived in.
Yep.
It's amazing, Charlton, because he could not be charged because of the position that he holds. You can't indict him.
Yeah.
But he has influence over the Justice Department down there in Florida, Charlton.
Oh, you don't think so?
Attorney General.
You don't think so?
He does. Now, think about it. This is a Republican state down in Florida.
Yeah.
They had a heated race. The Attorney General in Florida is a Republican. I'm not saying that political bias is going on here, Charlton.
We're not saying it's not.
You look at it however you want to look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
But, if this is MAGA country, and this is what that is.
Yeah.
But, you think about the number of people that are in prison right now, Charlton, for solicitation of prostitution.
Yep.
That don't have the wherewithal financially of a Robert Kraft and the 24 other men that were caught up in this thing, Charlton.
Yeah.
And one of them still lives in Washington, D.C.
And
it's the reason why all of this is going away.
It's going away.
Because you can't bring out that videotape.
Yep.
Okay? It's not going to be like the Access Hollywood tape getting off a bus.
No. And see.
So this is what's happening. When you talk about justice in America, Richard Pryor said it best, the late Richard Pryor, the comedian.
Yeah.
Said he went to court one time, Charlton, looking for justice.
Yeah.
And what he found was just us.
Yeah.
You know, he thought that he could plead his case, and the judge asked him, what are you going to be doing for the next 6 months, Mr. Pryor?
Yep.
He said, well, I'm going to be doing community service. I'm going to be helping out the homeless children, the orphan kids. He was pleading for leniency.
Yep.
This is no plea for leniency, Charlton. This is a plea for financial ability is what it's about.
Well, I got
Robert Kraft, because there was a letter, Charlton, written by 16 sexual abuse survivors, Charlton.
Yeah.
And 60 sexual abuse organizations, Charlton, to the commissioner of the NFL, asking him to ban Robert Kraft from the NFL for participating in human trafficking and sexual prostitution, Charlton.
Yeah.
But this case is going to go away, so those women won't be heard, Charlton.
Yeah, and that's a shame. And I know there are men who are defending what happened for whatever reason, but imagine if that were your own child that was caught up in that situation and couldn't get away because they have rich white guys that get money and even the law on their side. But I think the challenge is, it's not even about morality. It's about what people do when they really do what they do, okay? Not about what people pretend to be. Stopping millionaires and stopping billionaires worldwide from paying for women all over the world to do whatever they want them to do is nearly impossible. I'll tell you why. Because it's a stupid thing, but there are so many women now that want to be what they call sugar babies. I learned about this from some of my pro athlete friends and some of my lawyer friends. They don't want to date. They don't want to go and meet someone at a mall or, wherever, out grocery store or whatever, or, table for 90 or whatever they used to do to date people. They're women who will sell their services. They don't call it prostitution. They call it sugar babies. You have a lot of women who will do that, and Big C, some of them will even put themselves through college. So they'll make fun of the girls that say, oh, you're stupid. Why would you sell yourself so low? Well, some women, they know, and I'm telling you, even Mike Trout, who just signed $450 million, you don't think he has to be more careful in his situation? Because
when you look at those women, Charlton, these women in this situation in Florida were part of a human trafficking scheme.
That's
they had no opportunity.
No option, exactly.
They were brought into this country illegally. They were kept, shackled in the facility where they were, Charlton.
Yeah.
They were not allowed to leave. They didn't have human rights, Charlton.
That's right.
There was no one protecting their rights, looking out for them, giving them options. They had no opportunity to get an education, Charlton. They weren't put into that realm, Charlton. They were slaves. They were slaves just like African Americans, Charlton, that were brought to this country 400 years ago.
Yeah.
They were slaves in that capacity, Charlton. And who knows what would have happened to them, Charlton, once their owners had gotten tired of. They were owned property, Charlton.
Yeah.
They had no freedom. They're not like these girls that you call sugar babies.
Yeah.
They were not. They were slaves, and that's the word for them, Charlton. They were slaves. Even though they were in a prostitution ring, they were slaves. They were forced into this. They had no choice, Charlton, but to do what their owner and handler said.
Yeah.
Who knows how many of these young women may have lost their lives over time, Charlton, trying to escape from this horrid life that they were forced into.
Yeah.
So when you think about the white men that were aiding and abetting, Charlton, this going on, and this didn't happen with Robert Kraft. This has been going on for decades down in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy that lives in the White House was always visiting while he was at his place in Florida. He wasn't always out on the golf range. Okay?
He does go to Florida quite a bit. It's not to play golf all the time. Yeah, that's
so
true.
You got to be realistic about that. This is why the charges with Robert Kraft are going away. He'll admit, because he looks at the video, sees himself on there, yes, I would have been convicted in trial, so I'm going to sign this plea deal to have this go away and to have this sealed. And that's part of it, Charlton. That's the egregiousness about society. When people talk about justice, the NFL, okay? Let's go back to Colin Kaepernick. Once again, Colin Kaepernick head keeps rearing up. When he talks about social injustice, is this social justice or is this social injustice? So this is injustice for the victims. This is a win for the establishment, Charlton. To say, if I got money, I can avoid prosecution for prostitution, Charlton. I can avoid it. Now, what's going to happen to the young ladies, Charlton? Are they going to be deported from this country now?
Most likely.
That's something that hasn't been brought up. Are they going to be deported because they were here illegally?
Right.
Because they were victims. So now you're going to throw them back into a society, Charlton, where they came from, their mother country. What's going to happen to them over there, Charlton? They have nothing to go back to.
That's true.
And they have nothing here in America to be here for.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is to see how Goodell will handle those groups that are asking him to do something. But I know, you know this is true, you open up one box, you might find almost everybody in that classification.
But he has not been convicted of a crime, Charlton.
No.
What can the commissioner do? He made a plea deal for this to go away. It never surfaces. So this means NFL securities, Charlton, cannot get a hold of the tape.
Yeah.
So there's no fallout. It won't be like what you saw with Kareem Hunt or Ray Rice or any of those other players, Charlton, or the tape with James Hardy when he was assaulting his girlfriend.
Yeah. That's true.
We won't have that about Robert Kraft. The NFL's securities cannot get a hold of this, Charlton. So what type of discipline can the league hand down, Charlton? If you have no evidence, what type of discipline can the league hand down?
That's a good point.
Even with Ezekiel Elliott, the running back in Dallas.
Yeah.
You know, it was investigated, and the investigator said there was no evidence against him, but a tape surface of him pulling down a woman's top.
Yeah.
That's what he got convicted on, Charlton.
You know,
now,
that's interesting.
There'll be no tape of Robert Kraft.
Wow. You know, Ray Rice's career was brought down. Now, I want to ask, I know they're both bad, but one, you know, Ray Rice is a horrible what he did to his spouse. They got counseling, they made up, and, you know, I hate what happened, but they made some corrective measures after it. What's the corrective measure for Kraft to pretend that it didn't happen?
Think about it. You say it's horrific. It's horrific what Kraft did.
Yeah.
If you're enslaved, Charlton, to commit sexual acts on men, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's rape.
Yeah.
Realistically, that's rape. I don't care how you want to categorize it. She's forced to do something, Charlton, that she's not wanting to do.
Yeah.
Because she is entrapped in this facility, Charlton.
Well, you know what?
She's in prison in this facility, so that is rape.
Yeah.
She is forced to do what her owner says do, Charlton. That's rape. She's not doing this of her own volition, Charlton.
Yeah. And now they're trying to tell us that what they know they've solved that we didn't see, that it didn't happen. That's a shame. Maybe Gloria Allred will really spend, you know, some of her time to represent women if she really does love women, to look into that, but we know that won't happen. I want to just touch one more story on the NFL, Big C. You look at what's going on with Raiders, Vontaze Burfict meeting with Oakland. You have what's called the quarterback whisperer, the head coach, and he's a draft expert. The new GM, Mayock. They have 3 number 1 draft picks. How do they make the playoffs this upcoming season, being in the Raiders? And it seems like when they get somebody good, they get rid of them anyway, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you know, if you listen to all the preponderance, your friends, Kuiper and McShay and all of that.
I don't know those guys.
You know, Mike Mayock is supposed to be more intelligent than them.
Yeah.
So what the Raiders organization have right now, Charlton, are the 2 most intelligent men in all of professional football.
Allegedly.
As a head coach and a GM.
Right.
Based on the reason why they were hired, Charlton.
Yeah.
Is that, the guru Gruden had built this quarterback academy, Charlton, where he was telling everybody who were the best quarterbacks to be in the NFL.
Yeah.
And Mike Mayock knew something about every player coming out of college when you listen to the NFL Network, Charlton.
Yep.
That he knew the background of everybody. He had a great support staff, Charlton, doing his research.
Yeah. Well.
So if the Raiders can't get it right, Charlton, in this draft, you got 3 number 1s, you got a couple number 2s, Charlton, and a couple number 3s. If you can't get it right in this draft, with these 2 geniuses in Mike Mayock and John Gruden, what does that say for the future of the Oakland Raiders, Charlton? Is that you have the 2 most intelligent men in the NFL as a head coach and a general manager, and if you don't get this right, if you don't hit a home run, Charlton, and you don't get 7 starters, Charlton, out of your first 7 picks, Charlton, where does that leave your organization? Because Trent Brown and Antonio Brown, Charlton, can't win games by themselves.
They can't do it by themselves, and we'll see. The saga of the Raiders has been a long drought, even though we have a lot of rain in California. I want to just close on some NBA thoughts, Big C. The Nuggets, they clinched the playoff berth last night, 114-105 win over the Celtics. What a great game it was. The first time they'll be in the playoffs since 2013. That's a big statement for the Nuggets. Also, they tied Golden State last night that fell down in San Antonio. So this is a good year for Denver. I still don't think they have what it takes to climb to the mountaintop of the Western Conference, but this is any man's game. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is a real challenge for the rest of the West to have to go to Denver and play. Think about it. Mile High City. It's not easy to breathe up there.
Yeah.
And then you might have some recreational activities before or after the game, Charlton, and make it
relax.
even a little tougher to breathe.
Yeah.
So, when you look at that as a whole, this is a team that the networks don't want to see, Charlton, because Denver is not a big media market.
No.
But this is a team, Charlton, with Jokic at center, Charlton, that is just dominated. Under the radar. We hear all the talk about the said superstars in the NBA, and Denver's just been a quiet assassin all season.
Yeah, they really been, especially Jokic. They call him a joker, but he's no joke when it gets down to the post, Big C. You look at San Antonio, they jumped on the Warriors last night. It was a close game, but Draymond Green keeps forgetting that he can't shoot. There was a time they had Durant on the floor, they had Curry, they had Thompson, I think they had Iguodala, and they had Draymond, and Draymond takes the three within about a minute and a half to play. They were only down, I think they were down about 6 at that time, could have cut it down to 3, but of all the guys shooting the ball, he's the last guy you want doing it, but obviously Boogie Cousins didn't play last night, and just give me your thoughts on, when you think about the Warriors, last night, the Spurs won their 9th consecutive game. They're an amazing team. I think they've only had 4 losing seasons in the last 40 years or so, Big C. And just the way they play, they're going to ascend in the Western Conference. This was a team that was looking at a number 8 spot not too long ago, but there's something about Coach Pop that he won't let them fall too far, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, all of a sudden they're sitting at the 5 seed in the West,
yeah,
which is going to be a tough out. And you think about this 9-game winning streak that they have, Charlton. All 9 of those victories, Charlton, have come against teams ranked at least 6th position or higher in their division.
Yeah.
So they're not going out beating the scrubs, Charlton. They're beating playoff teams.
Yeah.
So the San Antonio Spurs have started their playoff run. And when it gets to this time of the year, Coach Pop knows what to do.
Yeah.
This is a normal annual rite of passage for him, Charlton.
Yeah.
This will make his 21st consecutive year that he's made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And when Pop gets in the playoffs, Charlton, he can create a challenge. If you remember just a couple of years ago, if not for Kawhi Leonard going down, the Warriors may not be the super team that people have been talking about.
Yeah.
Because the Spurs had jumped all over them in game 1.
Yeah.
Just like when Chris Paul went down last year for the Rockets.
Yeah.
They had the Warriors down. So, teams in the NBA are always one superstar away from being a complete team, Charlton.
Yeah.
But Popovich, with his magic that he can bring to the table, you never give him any doubt.
You don't doubt him, and love the way they play. But obviously, I think if with Boogie Cousins come back healthy, he could have been a difference in that game. But again, knowing who to get the ball to is always important. Big C, tonight's NBA action, it's not a lot of action out there, but there are several games. Philadelphia at Charlotte, bigger game for Philadelphia than Charlotte, of course. Houston at Atlanta. Atlanta at home they can sneak up on people, if not win, at least play them close. You have the Lakers at Milwaukee. Now, I want to get your thoughts on the Lakers going to Milwaukee. And I'm telling you, Giannis looks a lot like Kareem when he was Lou Alcindor. Now, we know the Lakers are trying to build. Milwaukee's going to be the long pit stop for Giannis, maybe. But there's a lot of money in L.A., a lot more money in L.A. than there is in Wisconsin, I would think. Just give me your thoughts on this game and the optics of it, your thoughts.
Well, the optics of this game right now have Adam Silver a little ticked off at the moment.
Yep.
Because Giannis is sitting for this game and LeBron is sitting for this game.
Yep.
So when you think about teams in the playoff hunt this time of the season,
yeah,
and this is the Lakers' only trip to Milwaukee. This is a sellout tonight.
Yeah.
The reason why this is a sellout because everybody was wanting to see LeBron in his only trip to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So how does the NBA start to handle this, Charlton, when teams are sitting down both of their superstars?
Yeah.
For games like this, the game really doesn't matter much for the Lakers, but it could give the Lakers an opportunity to win with Giannis not in the lineup, Charlton.
Yeah.
But for the NBA fan who pays the optimum dollar, Charlton, to see Giannis versus LeBron in a late season matchup, Charlton, Do the Milwaukee Bucks and the NBA talk and say, we're going to give you back 25% of your ticket price?
Nope.
Because the two superstars are sitting tonight.
No.
This is something that Adam Silver's going to address. He's going to have to address, Charlton.
Yeah.
I know that players are not machines, and they all want some rest at some point, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you can call it an injury or just a rest that they want to take.
Yeah.
But this is something you're going to have to look at. You're going to either have to cut down the NBA season, Charlton. We have to shave some games off, 15 to 20 games off the season, Charlton.
They're not going to do that.
Because if players are tired when it gets down to this point, Charlton, you're not getting the best performance for the fans. And that's what they say. It's fantastic. The NBA game is about the fans.
Yep.
But if you're shorting the fan by not having players pay and not giving a discount on the ticket, Charlton, something is wrong with that picture.
That's a good point, Big C. I don't think they're going to shut any games. They may throw a fine if that makes any sense. Golden State at Minnesota, a chance to, get on the track again up in Minnesota, the land of the Great Lakes. You have Brooklyn at Sacramento. Both teams are on the outside. Well, Brooklyn's going to be a playoff team in the East. Sacramento probably not going to make it this year, but they can finish strong and maybe keep that number 9 spot in the Western Division. Indiana got had up in Portland last night. Portland's really dominant at home as well as Indiana's great at home. Now Indiana has another tough road. They have to go down to L.A. and play the Clippers. And you hear some talk, and we talked about it about a week ago, Big C. There's still more talk about Doc Rivers. Would he want to be there with the Lakers, being the second coach on the team, if that makes any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at Doc's legacy, Charlton, he's been a tremendous asset wherever he's been.
Yeah.
Winning a title with the Boston Celtics, building the Los Angeles Lakers. I think it would be tough for Doc to leave, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because the executive in the front office with the Clippers, Charlton, is Jerry West.
Yeah.
And if you look at Jerry West's building profile, Charlton, he helped build the Lakers into a championship team, Charlton, when they had Shaq and Kobe.
Yep.
He helped build the Golden State Warriors, Charlton, into the franchise that they are today.
Yep.
And when you look at the moves that he has made with the Los Angeles Clippers, Charlton, they're a playoff contender, Charlton. They're a year or two away, Charlton, from being a real presence in the NBA West.
Yeah.
Why would you leave that and you become the architect of that as a head coach in Doc Rivers?
That's a very good point. So we know March Madness starts tonight. A lot of good things happen in the NBA, and we hope that you all enjoy it. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how could you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we have March Madness beginning tonight with the 2 playoff games of the play-in for the get down to the final 64, Charlton, which I think is an abomination of what college basketball should stand for, is that you're forcing 2 teams, Charlton, after the tournament games have already been played, to play one more game, Charlton, to try to squeeze into March Madness without any financial benefits for the players.
And also squeeze in some money into that bank account. Speaking of money, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.